You can cry on command.
But they are usually very fast, and that is why I decided to create this. Welcome to Free Talk, the show to help you learn English the fun and simple way. Ready? Hello everyone and welcome back to Free Talk Podcast. Welcome to the episode number 5 of this podcast. Today we are going to make an episode that is very thematic, we could say, because today is December 23rd. It's the day 23 of December. So that means that we are completely in the spirit of Christmas. Tomorrow is December 24th, and that is Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve. It's E-V-E, Eve, and that means before, usually the night before. So in this case, Christmas Eve is the night before Christmas Day. Christmas Day is on December 25th. So we are practically in the day and the celebration of Christmas. Of course, Christmas is a much longer celebration. It usually starts for some people in the beginning of December, some people later, some people earlier, some people start even before December, but anyway, the actual day of Christmas is on December 25th. And that is why the episode of today is going to be about Christmas Eve, that is tomorrow. And the reason why I decided to talk about this topic is not only because because we are practically in Christmas Eve day, but because I think it's a good way to tell you something about American culture and also to contrast it with my own culture. I'm going to tell you something that I'm sure it's not a surprise to you. I think it's something obvious if you have listened to the episodes before. If you listen to my voice, this is something obvious, and that is that I am not a native English speaker. My mother language, my native language is not English. My native language is Spanish. I am from Mexico. I was born in Mexico and I live in Mexico, and my native language is Spanish. Again, I think this is something obvious. This goes without saying. That means it doesn't need to be said. It doesn't need to be mentioned, but I mentioned this to you because in this way you can see why I am trying to make this difference or this contrast between American culture and, in this case, Mexican culture. So what we are going to do in this episode is that I will tell you some of the things that are traditions in the United States for American people. What do they do in this celebration? How do they celebrate? What are the traditions? What are the customs? And then I will tell you how these things are either similar or different from what we do here in Mexico. So let's start talking about the things that are maybe common to everyone. Because maybe if you are listening to this podcast, maybe you are not from the United States, but you live in the United States, or maybe you are from Mexico, or maybe you are from a different part of the world. I have seen that some people from countries such as Ireland and Netherlands or Holland listen to this podcast. So it's something that you can have maybe as a cultural reference. So then, first, what are the things that are common to everybody? What are the things that when somebody says Christmas in all countries we can think of. Those are, of course, maybe I think the color red. You know, the color red is completely associated with Christmas. Also with things like Valentine's Day and all that. But for some reason, Christmas is associated with the color red, red and white, and I think that also green in some cases or in some aspects. But the color green is the color of Christmas. Also, I think that no matter where you live, if somebody says Christmas, you can automatically think in Santa Claus. You know, that fat old guy who gives presents to kids. And for a lot of people, also Christmas means family. Christmas has a really strong connection and a really strong relation with family. And now we are going to check why. So, in the United States, Christmas is celebrated, as in many other places, on December 25th. That is Christmas Day. And even though, even considering that other celebrations take place too, other celebrations happen around the same time, like Hanukkah for Jewish people and Kwanzaa, we could say the national holiday, the national celebration is Christmas. Something similar happens here in Mexico. Some people don't celebrate Christmas because of their religion or their religious beliefs, or some people celebrate a different thing, but practically everybody celebrates Christmas. So let's start. I will start telling you what are the things that are common for American people to do. So one of the things that they do is that they of course they put up a Christmas tree. The difference we do here in Mexico as well. The difference, maybe the biggest difference I can think of, is that American people usually buy natural pine trees, natural trees. So a lot of people start cutting down trees and they sell them, and people buy it, and then they take them home and they put up decorations on the tree and all that. In Mexico we do the same, but it's more common that we use artificial trees. So we use plastic trees, and in this way we don't have to buy a new tree every year. We use the same tree every year. On the United States, another thing that they do is that they put up light decorations. They put lights on the Christmas tree, but they also put lights and ornaments and decorations outside their houses, usually on the facades of the houses. The facade is the front of the house. So when you are watching, when you are seeing a house from the front, that thing that you see, that is the facade. And American people like to put lights and decorations and these electrical Santas or reindeers. A reindeer is the animal that Santa uses. He attaches the reindeers to his sledge, to his sleigh, which is like his car where he flies. So the reindeer is the animal that he uses to travel around the world. And so people like to put up these light decorations, and some people really take this serious, and they put like incredible decorations with lights. I don't want to imagine how much money they have to pay on electricity bills, because I'm sure that they consume a lot of energy, a lot of electricity. But that is one of the things that we don't do here. We don't go that extreme. We are not so intense in that department. So we don't like to we are not real fanatics of lights here, but in the United States, people really go far on the lights aspect. And another thing that American people do and that we don't do is something that is called Christmas caroling. Christmas caroling. This is not a very extended tradition, so it's not done, it's not performed by a lot of people, but some people do it. And Christmas caroling is when people get together and they form groups, singing groups, and then on this holiday they go outside houses, or some people even knock on the doors of people, and then they start singing Christmas carols. Christmas carols, that is Christmas songs. And I think that the person who lives in that particular house offers these people something to drink or something to eat, and that is something that you would absolutely not see in Mexico happening. That is not a part of our Christmas traditions. And personally, I don't know, I'm not fan of Christmas music. I think that we have been exposed to so many songs about Christmas, and at least here in Mexico, when December starts, you listen to these songs everywhere, and I am so exhausted. I am tired. I am fed up. Fed up. FEDUP. Those are two words separated. Fed up. Fed up. And that means that you have had enough. I am fed up of Christmas songs, means I cannot listen to one more Christmas song. It's enough. Stop the Christmas songs. Okay, so that is one thing there. In the United States, perhaps the most representative figure or character of Christmas is, of course, Santa Claus, and they have this tradition of hanging stockings. Hanging stockings. Hanging is what you do, for example, with your clothes on the closet. So when you, when you have clean clothing, or when you want to use a shirt or something, you take it out from the closet, and the shirt is hanging in the closet. It's actually hanging on a hanger. A hanger is this thing, like a hook with like a curve, and you put your clothes there, and then you hang it over a tube, and it's hanging there. So that is hanging. And they hang stockings. Stockings are like these things that you wear on your feet, like socks but longer, and they hang these stockings usually next to the fireplace, if the person has a fireplace, and that is where Santa Claus leave presents for the kids usually. And when Santa, one of the traditions in the United States is that when Santa leaves a present on the sock, he takes some of the cookies and the milk that the kids leave next to the stockings the night before. So it's like a way to say thank you. So Santa gives you a present, and because he is giving you a present, you give him in return cookies and milk. That is also something that doesn't happen here. Sometimes some families, for example my family, we hang socks, in this case to the wall, because we don't have a fireplace, but we don't do it like a tradition to expect something from Santa Claus, because Santa Claus is not a big deal here in Mexico. For us, that tradition of receiving presents from someone doesn't come from Santa Claus. So Santa Claus is just like a figure. It's like the image of Christmas, but we don't we don't do this of receiving receiving presents from Santa Claus. We do something different, and I will tell you about that in a future episode in a couple of weeks. But that is the difference between Mexico and the United States in regard to Santa Claus, about Santa Claus. And when we, at least here in Mexico, we have this climate, these weather conditions where we never have snow. Snow. Do you know what snow is? S-N-O-W, snow. Snow is frozen water that usually falls down from the sky. And that is common in some places in the United States, but in Mexico we don't have snow. It is very cold in this season, but we never have snow. So that is something that we have as a difference, because in the United States, Christmas is usually associated with snow, and people go out on the streets and they use very, very warm clothes like jackets and coats and globes, and they have like these snowball fights. So they pick up the snow and they form a ball and they throw it at each other. And that is kind of like a tradition, because it happens during the Christmas season. Here in Mexico, we don't have that, but we have a substitute for that. And the substitute here is fireworks. Fireworks. Fireworks are those things that are like, I don't know how to describe them. I think they are like these little things that are filled with explosive powder, and you lit them with some matches or with a lighter. So you set fire to these things, and these things explode, or these things maybe make a noise, or they start sparkling. They start like making these sparks, and they start expelling light and all those things. And we don't have snow, but my God, on Christmas here, you can listen to fireworks for days, even for weeks. Usually kids go out on the street and they start lighting these fireworks, usually like firecrackers. A firecracker. In Spanish, we call it cohete. Cohete. It's a firecracker. So you turn some fire to this thing, and this thing explodes. So it makes a lot of noise, and it's so much noise around Christmas time here in Mexico, and it's kind of a tradition. I remember that when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I used to like that. Now I don't know why. I think it makes no sense. I don't know. I mean, just to hear something explode, it is not very attractive. Maybe that's because I am not a child anymore. I'm an adult person, and I am getting more bitter, more grumpy, like saying, "Oh, kids, oh, so much noise, kids." But well, anyway, that is something that we use to celebrate Christmas here in Mexico. One of the things that are common between Mexico and the United States, and between Mexico and other countries in the world, is the food part. So Christmas is a time for food. Christmas is a time where we cook special meals, we cook special dishes, and we eat a lot. That is something common, I think, for Christmas. Maybe the difference here is that in Mexico, the big celebration of Christmas is on Christmas Eve, on December 24th. So on December 24th, in Mexico, we make these huge dinners, and we make these enormous parties and we have a lot of food. But I mean, when I say a lot, I really mean a lot. So much food that it is a tradition here in Mexico, and it's also like a common saying. A lot of people talk about this, sometimes not seriously, but as a way of mocking, to mock, M-O-C-K, mock. That means to make fun of something, to say, to refer to something in a fun way. And the tradition here in Mexico is that after the Christmas Eve dinner, because we have so much food, we continue eating the same food for days. So we make this special dinner on December 24th, and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days later, we still have food from Christmas Eve dinner because we cook a lot of food. So on December 25th, on Christmas Day, we eat the leftovers. Leftovers. That is L-E-F-T, left, O-V-E-R, over, left over. And that means the food that you didn't eat. In Mexico, we call it something different. And in Mexico, we say recalentado, recalentado, which literally means reheated, reheated. So that means heated again. So your food, got cold, and then you heat it again, and you eat it. So this is what we do here. It's a very common thing in Mexico to have reheated, to eat the same food for several years. And of course, another of the things that are common in Mexico as a part of celebration is the alcohol. I think that even if you are not a regular drinker of alcohol, for some reason when we are celebrating Christmas, we like to drink a lot of alcohol, and people sometimes get so wasted, so drunk, they drink so much alcohol, and I don't know, it's part of our idiosyncrasy, it's part of our characteristic feature as a culture. Of course, maybe I am making a generalization. Not all people drink alcohol on Christmas, but from my experience, from what I can tell you, it is a thing. It is a common thing that happens in this holiday. And usually on Christmas Day in the United States, because they didn't have such a big celebration on Christmas Eve, the day that they celebrate is the next day, on Christmas Day, on December 25th. And people usually go out as a family, and they go to restaurants, or they do some things outside of the house, and they go to the movies or something like that, because they didn't have an exhausting party the night before. In Mexico, it's something completely different. In Mexico, we celebrate on December 24th, and we have these big parties, and we eat a lot, and sometimes we drink a lot. And for that reason, the next day, usually we don't go out. We prefer to stay home, to maybe watch Christmas movies at home with your family, eat the leftovers, eat the reheated, and just be lazy. It's a day to relax. It's a day to rest. And even if you had the intention of going out on Christmas Day, in Mexico, a lot of things, a lot of the stores and a lot of the places where you would usually go are closed because this is a holiday, so people don't have to go to work. So a lot of stores are closed, a lot of the places are empty. So it's kind of I don't know. It's not very festive a day, so you need to I don't know stay home. That's what we do here in Mexico. So I think that those are maybe the biggest differences and similarities between Mexico and the United States when it comes to celebrating Christmas. So to recap, to make a recapitulation of this, we recognize Santa Claus as a Christmas figure, but we don't ask things for him. That is not. I'm sorry. We don't ask him for things. So we don't expect presents from Santa Claus. We don't We don't go Christmas caroling. We don't have this fancy and extravagant light decorations, and we mostly celebrate on Christmas Eve. That is in this case tomorrow. So I don't know if it's maybe noticeable. I don't know if you can hear, but right now outside of my house there are people, kids, I suppose, lighting fireworks. So there is a lot of noise out there. I hope that you cannot hear it, but it's happening right now. So we are completely in the Christmas spirit. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and the day after that is Christmas Day. So I would love to know what are your traditions. If you are from Mexico, if you maybe I am not mentioning one tradition that you consider to be really relevant, or maybe you have different family traditions. Maybe you listen. Maybe your family does different things, or maybe if you are listening to this podcast in a different country, I would love to know, how do you celebrate Christmas? What do you do? What do you eat for Christmas? Do you ask Santa Claus for presents? What do you do? How do you celebrate Christmas? So we are going to finish the main topic here. Next week I am going to make a podcast about New Year's Eve. So also to make a comparison about these two different cultures, and New Year's Eve, it's really different in Mexico. We do a lot of things that I think are not very common or very usual. So if you are interested on listening to what are the things that we do here in Mexico in New Year's Eve, make sure you come here next Wednesday at 6 p.m. for a new episode of this podcast. And now, before we finish this episode, let's go to check a word and pronunciation. All right. So the word and pronunciation for this episode is about the letter T. The letter T. T. And what this word and pronunciation is about is something called the silent T. Silent T. Silent, S-I-L-E-N-T. Silent is a word that is is similar to the word silence, which means no sound, no noise. So when you say that something is silent, it means that it has no sound. It's mute. It doesn't produce a sound. And in this case, the T is silent, but not always, of course. So I will tell you in what situations the letter T is silent. And there are many scenarios, many situations where the T changes its pronunciation. I mentioned on the episode number 1 of this podcast what happens, or what is the sound of the letter T when we have it in the beginning of a word, or in the middle, or at the end. So if you missed that episode, I really invite you to go and listen to the episode number 1, where we discussed that aspect of the pronunciation of the letter T. But in the episode of today, we are going to check what happens when the T, the letter T, is preceded. So that means that before the letter T, we have the letter N. The letter N. So the sounds of the letter N, so the sound N, and the sound of the letter T, are very close in our mouth. So for that reason, when we have a letter N and immediately after we have the letter T, the T becomes silent. So that means we don't pronounce it. And to give you a better example of this, I will give you some words with this characteristic, and you will see how we can make this letter T silent. So let's check, for example, the word interview. Interview. The spelling is I-N-T-E-R-V-E. Sorry, I screw it up. Let me do it again. I-N-T-E-R-V-I-E-W. So for a lot of people who are not English speakers, we say interview, because that is the spelling, and we say, well, we have N and we have T, the pronunciation is interview. If you say interview, I mean, there is no problem with that. People are going to understand what you mean, interview. But native American speakers usually don't pronounce this letter T. So what they say is interview. Interview. So we make the sound of the letter N longer. So it's not only interview, it's interview, interview. It's like a long N. Interview, interview. So the two pronunciations are correct, they are accepted. But if you want to sound more natural, more, I don't know, even maybe more American, what you will say is interview. Interview. For example, also the word internet. Internet. You can pronounce internet, but you can say internet. Internet. Or international. 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 So you can say international, that is okay, perfectly acceptable, but the more natural way is international. International. The number after number 19, you can say 20, 20, but usually if you listen to American English, you are going to listen 20, 20, 20. Winter, winter. You usually pronounce it winter, winter, winter. Maybe to avoid confusion with the word winner, there is a little sound of D. D. So you can say winner, or you can say winter, winter, winter. It's not winter, it's kind of like winter, but small sound of the winner, winner. Yeah? So this is just a reference about how native English speakers speak. If you want to pronounce the T, that is okay. There is no problem with that. But this is how you can listen to people pronounce it. So this is something that I like to mention, but not to tell you that this is exactly the way that you need to pronounce it. I think that this is very useful, mostly for the part of the understanding, because sometimes we get confused and we say, I think it's international, but they didn't pronounce the T. So is this a different word? No, it's the same word. The only difference is how American people decide or usually pronounce this word. Okay, so in this case it's international, internet, interview, 20, interactive, printer, percentage, interface, interstate. Okay, so that is the word and pronunciation for this episode. You can pronounce it. You can try to pronounce this word without the T. If you find this word when you are reading, make a mark on it and try to pronounce the word without the T if you want to do it. Okay, so that is a word and pronunciation for this episode. All right, very well. So this is how we are going to finish this episode of today, episode number 5, Christmas Eve, cultural differences between the United States and Mexico. So before we leave, before we end this episode, I want to remind you once again that if you are interested in getting more content, in getting more things from Free Talk, you can do it by visiting the website www.freetalkenglish.com. In the page, we have a lot of content. Believe me, it's a lot of content. We have more videos. We are making videos every week. We have one of the series of videos that we have is called Say What. And in these videos, I explain on every episode one new common expression in English. And I do it in a way that you can understand the meaning of the message, the meaning of the expression, but you also understand more words because we divide the expression into the individual words, so you can learn more words, you can learn the usage of more words, and then you can learn more expressions. And of course, you have the opportunity to listen to more English. Say What is the first of the series of videos in Free Talk, but we have many ideas and we are working on those ideas, and we are starting recording these new videos. So if you want more, if you like this podcast, if you enjoy this podcast and you want more, make sure you visit the webpage. Everything we have there is free, so I don't have like a price you need to pay or a membership. It's everything free. I have professional services. I work as a coach, but that is not an obligation. If you go there, you can just use the content and really start learning English in a more powerful and easier way. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being on this podcast. I would love to hear from you. If you could give me a review here on the iTunes section or on Stitcher or on any of the platforms where you are listening to this podcast, I really would appreciate your feedback, your comments, your opinions, your reviews, your thoughts. I want to know what are you thinking about this podcast. Thank you very much. I will see you next Wednesday with an episode about New Year's Eve. Oh my God, 2015 is gone. I will see you next week. Keep it simple.